Welcome back. Obviously, I've copied a few of these buttons over because I couldn't be bothered making more of them for the sake of the tutorial. But generally speaking, you would have made multiple buttons up here that looked different and didn't have the same name. But we've moved on to our next conundrum, which is sometimes you have a full color background, and you probably wouldn't have this full color heading thing here either. But how do you make it so that you can read your text? Because I've got text here, but you can't really see what's going on except for there's spots here where you can actually, where the colors are contrasting. But how do you make it so that you can read it all? Because I can clearly not read this stuff very well. And the answer is transparency. Okay, but you don't want to make a full solid color background, because you can, like if you really want to, you can click on this table, and I could highlight everything and then just go to background and make it like, I don't know, black or white. And now, sure, I can read what it says, but now like my background, why did I even have it there? It doesn't look very good. So what we want to do is have a little bit of transparency. So highlighting this again, we're just going to, or press Control Z to get rid of it. We're going to create a constant repeating semi-transparent image in Photoshop, which will take up next to no space, but it will give us transparency. Okay, you could do it with a whole bunch of CSS rules and stuff, but this is really easy. So we're going to go back to Photoshop, and to be honest, you can make this as big or as small as you want, but it's usually best to make it little. I'm just going to make this thing 5 pixels by 5 pixels, which is tiny. Okay, and you can barely even see it, but if I was to scroll and zoom, you can see it back there, and it's that's, wow, 3,200%, and that's how big it is. We want to make this have a bit of opacity. Now, if we go back to Dreamweaver, we have to choose in our head, really. Do we want to have a semi-transparent white color or a semi-transparent black color? We know that our text is black, so we should really have an opposite. So sort of a semi-transparent white would work better. So we're going to go back to Photoshop, and we're going to unlock this layer. Okay, and now all we've got to do is change the opacity. Okay, so the further you change this, the more transparent it gets. So if you want the background to show up a lot, then you need to turn transparency all the way down to near the bottom. So that'll make it hard to read the text though. So my recommendation for you is probably about 50% or a little bit higher, maybe even 65. Okay, that'll make the text fairly clear, but we'll still be able to see a bit of the background, so it won't totally destroy, our full color image. Okay, now that that's on 65%, all we got to do is save this. Okay, so File, Save As. Make sure it's in the location where all your other stuff is. Mine's in my test site. And now I'm just going to go down here to PNG. Got to make sure that's selected, otherwise transparency won't come up. And we're going to call this transback, and I like to say the percentage, so I'm going to go with 65, just so I know that's 65% opacity, in case later on I think, oh, I actually need more transparency or less transparency. This will help. Press save, press OK. And now you ask the question, but it's tiny. That's not going to matter, because it's going to constantly repeat itself. Back in Dreamweaver here, we're going to click on the edge of this table, and we're going to click Shift F5 or right click on it and choose Edit Tag. And we're going to go to Browser Specific, Browse, and we're going to pick this tiny little 5 by 5 pixel PNG, which is really small in size and in pixels. Press OK, and you'll see that it's actually filled the whole area because it just repeats itself if it doesn't fit fully, which is a sort of a good way to save a bit of space. And now you can see that our background image is clear, but we have a little bit of transparency, so our text is also clear. Okay, so we've sort of compromised a little bit. We can still see our picture, but we can also read our text. Okay, you could do the same thing with this background if you wanted. If you want to edit the tag and get rid of that solid picture that we had up there, change that to transparent background, press OK. Okay, and you can see that that works for that as well. Okay, so a little bit of transparency goes a long way. I just made that up on the spot. That was pretty bad. Going back to Photoshop, if I wanted to change this to black instead, I could just use the paint bucket, click on it, and now it's doing a black transparency instead of a white one. Okay, and it's still kept at 65% from before. I'm just going to file, save that, save as, and I'm going to call this one transback, but I'm going to change the file name to black, just so I know. Press save, and now I'm just going to show you on Dreamweaver the difference between black and white transparency. and Shift F5, can have a look at this. There it is. Press OK. And you can see that the transparency is now black. Not very good for black text, but probably would have been much more effective if I had done that too. This one up here. And changed this one to the black background because we have white text. And there you go. See, it works that way as well. Okay, so you can see how you can use black or white transparency. You can use any color really, but those two generally work well to make text stand out. Like if I'd have made this one black, you could have just made the text white. Okay, so that's an easy way to create transparency. I find it's the easiest way to do it in Dreamweaver. All you got to do is have a tiny understanding of how to make it in Photoshop, and it's that easy. Okay, so thanks for watching this tutorial. Hopefully your websites will have a bit of transparency now.